So some questions about what a starter is. A starter is really nothing more than flour and water that has begun to ferment. And so you can imagine if you just left some wet flour on your countertop sealed up for a bit, after a few days it would probably be kind of gross, right? It is ripe for, it's got food, it's got starch, and then it's got water. So the point of a starter is you would start that process and have some water, some flour, plenty of tutorials out there how to do that. But I have a starter, right? So I want to maintain a starter. And so what's it used for? It's used in lieu of yeast. So normally bread is flour, water, salt, and yeast. In this case, it's flour, water, salt, and starter. The starter is what provides the bubbles, provides the fermentation in place of the yeast to help the bread rise. This particular starter has a lineage of over 100 years. Got it through a friend who got it from King Arthur Flour up in New Hampshire. You can see if I tap here, you can even see some bubbles coming up. If you want to look from the side, this is my whole wheat starter, which is half white, half wheat. You can see some nice bubbles in there forming. This was this high when I fed it this morning, and how to feed your starter is in the next video you could watch. This is the other one that's all white, all-purpose flour. So the point is, this is active, right? I fed it to here, it's gonna go up to here. Repeated feedings over and over, every 8 to 12 hours. So like maybe tonight, I throw away most of this, leave it, put flour and water in again, mix it up, tomorrow morning it bubbles back up. The more times you cycle that through, the more active it becomes. And active is what you want to use in your recipes for bread. Now, there are other recipes that call for sourdough discard. So let's say I had this and let it roll for another 4 or 5 hours. It starts to flatten back down a little bit. That's extra starter. There's still some activity in there, but it's not super active like you want in the bread. You could use that to make things like pretzels or waffles or other things that call for sourdough discard. But what I could do here is with this guy, I've had it forever. I've had it over a year, if that's forever. Like I said, you can take some, put it in a jar, put it in the fridge, and let it sit there. It'll slow down the whole process, right? This is a living, breathing organism. It's lactic acid bacteria that's in there, that's the primary driver. And when that consumes the flour, it makes the carbon dioxide, hence the bubbles that you get. If you want to slow this down, if I took this right now, covered it, put it in the fridge, 7 to 10 days, you're still good. You could bring it out, it'll be a little flat, and then you start cycling through again. You would feed it according to the instructions in the other video that's on this playlist. And then you could go from there and get it up to where it's super active. Active is where it's bubbly and it's peaking. And that's where the more active it is, the better rise you're gonna get in your bread. And the more times you cycle it, the more active it is. With the sourdough especially, you're gonna get that kind of signature tang of a sourdough. So that's what a starter is and why it applies to our bread here. And how to maintain and feed it is listed in the next video.